All right, we're getting both Facebook and Insta on at the same time. Hello,
Hello, Facebook.
We need to adjust a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Today we are talking all things carbohydrates.
Wow, look at all that.
Yeah, we need to change that.
Gosh.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in while Haley changes our...
zoom in?
Ooh.
What? We can zoom in.
Wow, look at that.
Okay, that's a little bit better.
Yeah, that is a little bit better. All right, guys, so we have been going through a series for the last, this is the third week. We did, well,
I just have to readjust.
We did protein 2 weeks ago, we did fat last week, and we are tackling carbohydrates today. And we just want to jump into why are they important? What do they do in our body? Is there a timing thing to it? Are all carbs created equal? And then we have all sorts of examples that we brought that we want to share some of our favorites. So yeah, join in the conversation anytime. I'm so glad to see so many of you guys joining us. And both, whether you're on Facebook and joining us live or Instagram and joining us live, we'll do our best to try to catch comments. And this has just been so fun. And we've gotten a lot of feedback on these ones that we've done, specifically on the food that we share component. And so we're going to spend a little bit more time on that part today. So
yeah, sorry, I've been really distracted this whole time. Everything that she said, I totally agree with.
100%.
But yeah, we're going to talk about carbohydrates. We're also going to talk about why they are not the enemy that many people think that they are. I feel like I'm squinting because the sun is kind of bright, so
we
bear with us.
decided to be outside today. It's beautiful.
It is gorgeous,
in Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
We just don't have sun on us, so we're kind of cuddled up here,
yeah.
And it was a really good excuse to get outside just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
but let's jump in. Why are carbs not the enemy? Because a lot of people, carbs get a bad rap. And they get a bad rap for lots of different reasons. I hear a lot of people come out and say, carbs make me gain weight, carbs make me fat, carbs make the scale go up. And that is not entirely true. There is some truth to what carbs do in our body could cause the scale to be up a little bit higher depending on when you eat those carbs. Part of that is because when you eat a carbohydrate, your body requires more water to process that carbohydrate. So for every gram of carbohydrate you take in, your body also will absorb 4 to 5 grams of water. So that is important. If you eat a bunch of carbs, then your body's going to hang on to some extra water. That's going to cause the scale to go up. Is that actual fat being stored? Probably not. It's just water that you're retaining in order to help process through those carbs. Now, if you overindulge in the carbs, you may retain some of that as fat. So beware.
Absolutely. And
but that's true for everything.
With anything. And that's one of the things that we feel is so important that we love to work with clients on is if you eliminate a food group for any period of time, like let's say a significant, one of the significant macros. So there's protein, there's carbohydrates, there's fat. And then you have all the micronutrients that go within that. But if you were to take out one of the macro categories, let's say carbs, and really just focus on fat and protein per se, that would be what a lot of people recognize as keto. There are definitely some benefits to that. It comes down to the sustainability though. And that's why when we're looking at working with a client, we really want to work with them on what are their goals, what is doable for them, how can we really shift body composition if that's one of their goals and get them to a more flexible metabolism, all while fueling their body, not having them have to operate in a deficit or with too many restrictions, because what ends up happening is the chance of sustainability and or plan adherence goes way down the more difficult you make it. Yeah. And so it's really about like creating healthy habits, educating and fueling, and that does take all three in the right ratios for what your goals are, in our opinion. Now, can you have goals by eliminating one of those? Can you meet goals by eliminating one of those? Yeah, you absolutely can, and there's for sure science behind ketosis. However, if you use carbs responsibly and taking it even a step further.
I like that. Use carbs responsibly.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
And then taking it even a step further and like not just responsibly, but strategically.
Yeah.
They can do incredible things for your nervous system, for your brain, and primarily for your energy. Mm-hmm. So let's just, I made a few notes because I didn't want to I wanted to make sure that we touched on a few important things.
I did not write any notes. I like to just come in blind.
I love it. And we don't sit there and do a lot of preparation for this. We just want to jump in on topic and like keep it light. I also think that getting a little bit technical from time to time, we both love to geek out, but we know that, you know, we don't want to bore you guys. But I do think that several of you have said that you find the science interesting. So we're going to share a little bit of it.
The science is actually what keeps me coming back because, I mean, I know what makes my body feel the best, but I love knowing that there's science behind it.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about
I'm going to just cheat and read what she has to say.
What carbohydrates are actually doing for you and your body and your brain. So you hear a lot about carbohydrates being energy. Now, they absolutely are, but we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but in our opinion, not all carbohydrates are created equal. And there are a lot of people out there.
I think that's well, I get into this sticky place a lot where I feel like my opinion is actually the right one, like how all carbs aren't created equal. I would like to think that most people on the planet would agree with that. If you don't, then let's chat later.
Yeah. See, I don't. I think there's a lot of people, even in our industry, specifically in macros, that are very much like a calorie is a calorie, not a calorie is a calorie, but regardless of, let's say a gram of carbs is a gram of carbs, and whether it's completely inflammatory or completely non-inflammatory, like your body's still going to use that carb in the same way. Here's the deal, like it will be converted to energy, but there is a lot to like the amount of fiber that is accompanied with that carb, and then also what is it doing to your long-term inflammation in your body. And that's why, yes, there are no foods off limits per se when you do a macro plan, and you can, as long as it fits within your macros, like eat whatever you want and you will have success if you're consistent. But if you're really looking for long-term longevity and avoiding or reversing any form of like chronic illness, you're gonna have to really work on having a non-inflammatory foundation. And so we're gonna get into that.
Yeah. Okay. I won't jump.
Okay, I know, because it's like we get in here and we get
excited. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Especially when you start talking about inflammation, because there's so much we can do to reduce our amount of inflammation, and what people don't understand. And I'd like to preach this from the mountaintops, that if we were all able to reduce inflammation, chronic inflammation in our bodies, we would see a huge reduction in degenerative diseases like diabetes, like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, like lots of diseases.
IBS, fibromyalgia,
yes.
Like the list goes on and on, because the base foundation is chronic inflammation. Like that is where cellular destruction starts taking place and disease starts occurring. And so I know that like on the surface, like we are here to work with our clients on reaching, like exceeding their goals. And one of the ways that we do that is through macronutrients. Yeah. However, there's so much more to our program and to our lives, quite frankly, that we just feel like we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't educate on that side of it. And so I'm just going to go through this list quickly because we want to get to some more good stuff. But like, what are carbohydrates if eaten responsibly and strategically? What do they do for you? That's going to be like giving your muscles energy to work for you. Fueling your nervous system. Like we could get into the whole technical component of that, but by eating responsible and strategic carbs, it can really make a difference on your nervous system. And I see this like very clearly in one of my boys, who just you can see how food affects him so quickly. And so it's just always been such an interesting experiment to me. Poor guy.
Her son is a great experiment.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. It also, carbohydrates can aid in fat metabolism. And so we're going to get into that a little bit, and why is that? And then also, carbohydrates, when utilized by the body, they can prevent your body from utilizing its protein as energy, so that your protein can then protect your muscle. So when you take fat and carbs and protein and you have harmony between the three, it's amazing what can happen in the body, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
No. In fact, it's better if you keep it simple.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, where carbs can be dangerous My pup, I don't know if you guys can see her down here, but
she's licking grapes that are on the ground. And I know grapes are really bad for dogs. They're in a package, don't worry.
And so I don't know where I was going with that, but if we look at carbs in general, carbs can be a fantastic energy. However, they can also have a dramatic impact on our blood sugar. And so there's some very strategic things that you can do to minimize the impact on your blood sugar, so that it also helps keep your mood and your energy, all of the things stable.
Balance.
Very balanced.
Yeah.
And so we talked about why carbs. Let's talk about how carbs. So
how they what? Like that, let's talk about how carbs are processed in our bodies, and kind of some of the, is that the how that you were talking about?
Yeah, and why, like some strategic ways
Yeah.
to consume carbohydrates so that
Right.
you're utilizing them in the best possible way, but you're not getting the blood sugar spikes that they can be accompanied.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot. If you've been around, if you've listened to many of our lives, especially in the last couple of weeks, you've heard us talk about this several times. And there's really simple things that you can do. In our Western, I feel like our standard American diet is a little bit upside down.
Yeah, the pyramid.
Not just the food pyramid, but like the way that restaurants work. You go to a restaurant, you get a basket of bread on your table before your food comes.
Chips and salsa.
Or chips and salsa, or whatever it is. The simplest thing, and I think that it's an easy shift that everybody can do, is instead of starting your meal with a carbohydrate, start your meal with some protein and fat. And what that does is it allows your body a environment to use the carbohydrates without giving you a blood sugar spike. So when we go into a restaurant on an empty stomach and the waiter brings us a basket of bread and we take that bread and we eat it, all of a sudden our body is triggered. We get an insulin response right away. It happens in our brain, it happens in our blood. Our insulin goes up from the glucose that's in that bread, and then we immediately get blood sugar levels that are high. And then if we don't take care of that by movement, we've talked about like exercising afterwards, whether it's just going for a walk or moving your body in any way, that can help eliminate that spike. But the easiest way to do it is to hold off on the bread until you're able to have some protein and fat. And so that alone will help you keep your blood sugar levels a little bit more stable throughout the meal.
Or better yet, just pass over the bread and have a less inflammatory carbohydrate to accompany your meal, which we'll get into.
Right. Okay, we got a question. What about if you have an egg scramble or bake or mixed foods of all three food groups, like eating it all at once, not just protein first? So that's a good question. I do that same thing every morning for breakfast. So I grill up a bunch of vegetables and mushrooms, and then I have a couple of eggs, and I do that every day. What I do try to do is, before I dive into the vegetables, even though vegetables are a little bit different because they're coupled with fiber, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I also will have it like one slice of sourdough bread or a piece of gluten-free bread. That is like my kryptonite. I love bread. And so what I do try to do is I try to eat the bread last, just to keep me from having that glucose spike. What ends up happening is if we sit down to a meal and we eat a bunch of bread right away, not only do we get the blood glucose spike, but then later on it'll reverberate like later on during the day. If you do that in the morning, then you may find yourself wanting to snack earlier in the day because your body likes that glucose spike. It feels good. It's a dopamine hit to our brain and we want it. And so then you might find yourself going to the fridge a little bit earlier before lunch looking for that hit again. That goes away if you start with your protein and fat first. So, but if you're talking about vegetables like in a frittata or something like that, our body treats the vegetables a little bit differently, and you can go ahead and have those first.
And I would even say, like, if you're talking about potatoes or something like that, if it's mixed together, that's still far better than just eating that in like just alone prior to the others. It's just like Haley was saying, in our culture, oftentimes we've just naturally become accustomed to starting with carbohydrates
and simple carbohydrates, because there's
Yeah.
a difference between simple and complex carbs, and we want to err on the side of complex carbs. Like, we want more complex carbs than we do simple carbs, and often what we're being fed first thing is simple carbs.
And the other reason for that, just to get into the why a little bit in terms of how you'll feel, is a lot of people talk about this like mid-afternoon crash. They have like a lull in their energy in the middle of the afternoon. And if you go into a meal with the goal being to simply not be hungry when you're done with the meal, and you're able to start with your protein and your fats and then incorporate your carbohydrates in whatever that looks like to you, oftentimes, because you're not going to have that blood sugar spike, you're also then not going to have that blood sugar crash after the fact. And so that blood sugar crash usually comes after the spike, and so a lot of people will eat a heavy lunch and then they'll just be exhausted or fatigued or tired or wanting to take a nap or whatever it may be mid-afternoon. Well, it's because of the crash that comes after the spike. So if you don't have that spike and you can keep your blood sugar levels stable, not only is it going to help you in avoiding excess fat storage, but it's also going to help keep your energy levels maintained. And who doesn't want good, sustained high energy?
I do.
I want it. And that's one of the things that we hear so much from our clients, is just that they start having that sustained heightened energy throughout the day, and they're not having the brain fog, and they're able to like push through and have better cognition in the afternoon. And like, those things are important.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, they're important.
Yeah.
So okay. Go for it.
I'm just going to circle back around, because there is a little bit more to be said about like simple carbs versus complex carbs. So a simple carb would be like these tortillas. It's corn. These don't have any wheat flour in them, but like a simple carb would your body would process it as sugar, and so then it's different. It doesn't have the fiber. So like these tortillas don't. In fact, I don't even know how many fiber. 2 grams of fiber. So one thing you get when you have like a complex carb, like an apple, sweet potato, or something like that, is if you're eating the whole food, you're getting the fiber, and the fiber helps to break down the sugars inside of our bodies so that we don't get that sugar spike. So if you are going to eat the veggie frittata in the morning, you're good to go. If you are going to have a salad before a meal, we often have salads before meals, that is fine too. Just make sure that the dressing on your salad is not loaded with sugar, because often they are. But anyway, as long as the food that you're eating, the carbohydrate is complex and is in its whole food form, then that vegetable or fruit for that matter should not affect your blood sugar, as long as you couple it with protein and fat within your meal.
And the beauty is that you can have a large volume of vegetables and it's not a significant amount of carbohydrates. And we're going to get into that. But I would say, like, just to get into the nitty gritty, like, yes, carbs are essential for energy, but back to eating them responsibly and strategically.
Yes.
If you can primarily be getting your carb sources from whole foods, and really, for the most part, from vegetables and seasonal fruits, like, that is going to be the most non-inflammatory approach possible. Now, if there's things that you really like the piece of sourdough toast or whatever it may be, like, absolutely fit it in. Just make sure that you are trying to avoid those blood sugar spikes that can be accompanied if you eat it independent of anything else.
Yeah.
And or out of order. And we don't want to make this overcomplicated. We're out on my front porch.
Yeah,
And we have,
just waving to the neighbors.
we don't want to make this overcomplicated by any means, but there's just some little hacks that can make a huge difference over time. And if you guys have questions on those things, like, always reach out. And so I do think that just going into... We've talked about inflammation a lot lately, and, you know, once again, like, there's no food that is off limit per se, but we want to educate on why trying to primarily stick with less inflammatory foods is going to help you feel better in the long haul and help with longevity on top of just aesthetics. Yeah. Where I was going earlier, and I think we segued, is that there are a lot of other people, even in our industry, even within, like, the macro world, that very much are promoting, like, and the last thing, we're not shaming here by any means, but I think that there's some dangerous information out there, like eat gummy bears after you're done with your workout, or like if you love gummy bears and you want to fit them in, like by all means fit them in, but don't create a habit just to try to get that pump into your muscle when you could be doing it with something that is less inflammatory if you enjoy it. So all of that is to say, like, do your own homework, because I definitely think that there are a lot of things that are touted out there right now that are like, oh wow, like I can have my cake and eat it too. Like, sure, you can have your cake and you can track it and you can work around it.
You can eat it too.
And you can still have aesthetic changes, but if you're eating your cake every day, you might look great on the outside if you're hitting your macros, but we're looking for feeling and looking good on the inside too. So that's where we're coming from.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
and a lot of that is like body awareness and mental awareness. And so you may not, like, let's say you go and have Mexican, and I'm using this example because it hits home for me, is you go and have Mexican food and you have a big burrito for lunch, and then 2 hours later you're like, oh my goodness, I feel like I weigh 1,000 pounds and I'm so sluggish and I have no energy. Just be aware of that and then work backwards and try to figure out, like, what is causing it. 9 out of 10 times it's not environmental. 9 out of 10 times it's what you put in your body that's causing you to feel that way. So backtrack, figure out what it was, and then next time be a little bit more aware, make some simple shifts, and then see how your body feels.
Yeah.
It's really quite simple.
It can be so simple, and like we're on here and we talk about all these things, but what it really comes down to, outside of macro magic, because there is
macro magic.
Yes, we're all about the M's, you know. Talk about macros and movement and mindset and magic. Anyways, so like outside of, oh boy, the macro magic, because it really is like amazing when you start really figuring out how your body composition can dramatically shift by fueling it appropriately. But outside of that, it really just comes down to getting back to basics of food from the ground, food that walks around, food from the air, and food from the sea. So it's whole foods. And so the more processed something is, the more likely it's going to create inflammation in your body. And if you have a foundation of low chronic grade inflammation, it will have a profound effect on your nervous system, your immune system, all of your systems.
And typically it's not the food that's bad, it's what's been done to the food that makes it bad.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about fiber, because I think that is just so important when we're talking about carbohydrates, even to a further degree than we've already talked about. And then let's jump into some food examples.
Ooh, my favorite.
Yeah. Okay, so I also made a couple notes.
I did not. You are getting an inside scoop on our personalities. This is how we function in real life.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so it's really interesting. If within 40, so your body actually starts digesting your food within 10 seconds of eating it, which is wild.
That's like, this goes in my mouth and digestion starts.
However, if you eat a meal, if you're eating carbohydrates without appropriate fiber, within about 45 minutes, you're going to experience that blood sugar cascade. And so
it's like if I ate a bunch of these and nothing else,
yeah,
I'm going to feel that.
And then what ends up happening is, well, I guess we've already talked about this to some degree, but when you get those blood sugar spikes, and then the way that the insulin's working in your body, and then over time you can create insulin resistance, and then you're taking in more and it's storing that as fat, and like this whole ugly
cycle.
process.
It's like a terrible downward spiral. It's a hurricane of horribleness.
It's
See, I can do it too.
Yeah, girl. Okay, so how much fiber should a person be eating? So this is going to differ. It really is on the size of the person, on how they're digesting their food, like all of the things. Because there's profound benefit for the gut with fiber also, and then there's a huge benefit between the gut-brain connection. And so, like, fiber can be fabulous.
Fabulous fiber. It can also be ferocious.
It can be. And so on average, now once again, like, it's not a one size fits all, but on average, we like our clients to shoot for roughly 25 grams of fiber per day. The beautiful thing is that in MyFitnessPal, when you're tracking your food, it already automatically tracks your fiber when you're putting your food in. So it's not like something you're going to have to track separately.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no guesswork to it. And sorry, it's a little bit distracting here, but one of the cool things about fiber, and a lot of people don't get enough fiber in their diets. If you start tracking what you're eating in MyFitnessPal and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm only getting 7 or 8 grams of fiber per day, then you might want to make an adjustment or take a supplement. And there are tons of different supplements for fiber out there. And you just need to find one that works best with your body. There are water-soluble and non-soluble fibers, and you really do need to have a little bit of a balance of both. And so if you're just taking like a water-soluble fiber and you're not getting any non-soluble fiber, you'll want to figure out what that balance is. And the way I heard it described, and I don't remember which one is which, maybe you know, one of them is like if you take like if you picture like a pasta colander, like that you're going to strain. You know, you dump your pasta after it's cooked and the water strains out. If you think about your gut in that way, you want the fiber is going to create a barrier inside your gut lining, and you want it to like fill the holes, right? And then you want it to also create like this little like a net over it so that nothing is leaking out. And the two soluble and non-soluble fibers, they work in tandem. One of them creates like the liner that fills the holes, or actually it's the other way around. One of them creates like the scaffolding that like helps to go over the holes, and then the other one is like the surface. It's like the like wax that kind of goes over it to seal it all up. So you need the two. And so make sure that you're getting plenty of both.
Yeah. I was reading a study earlier, and I actually had to go because I didn't believe it, because it's new information to me. And I was like, wow, that seems really like a big claim and pretty profound. So I went and looked at all the cited resources, and then I went and read another study. And this is really interesting. By just doubling your fiber, on average, a person eating 12 grams of fiber, when they double it to 24 grams of fiber, on average, they're burning 92 more calories per day just because of how the fiber works in the body and in the gut. So that's almost 100 calories just by simply increasing your fiber. And like, you're burning more calories without eating more calories. It's just the type of calories you're eating. So like, that's pretty profound.
It is.
And that was just by taking, on average, 12 grams of fiber to 24 grams of fiber per day. Same calorie value as far as what you're consuming, but you're burning on average 92 more calories a day. Now, obviously, that's going to shift depending on the size of the person and all of those things, but this study was able to produce that. And it was a reputable study. So it was really interesting. A trainer once told me it's okay to take fiber with higher carbs in it because those carbs don't really absorb like normal carbs. They are kind of net carbs. Is this true? Okay, so
that's sticky.
Yeah, so in theory, net carb, like a lot of people only track net carbs. Now, we want our clients to track total carbs, so we have them turn off the net carb feature in MyFitnessPal because we really just want to look at things as full buckets: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Because those are all going to be interplaying, because there's so much more to that than that simple statement. Yes, in theory, that can be true, but once again, not all carbs are created equal, and to actually measure the net carbs, like there's so many things to that. So it can actually be a deterrent. So I think that piece can be kind of tricky.
Well, and I think it plays hand in hand too with what Emmy was saying. You know, a lot of people out there might say, you know, we're only going to track net carbs because of the way our body burns through certain complex carbs, just like Emmy said, you know. And so I think that if you just keep things simple, the simpler you keep them, the easier it is to like be on a plan and to follow, to stay within certain boundaries. And so we just track whole carbs. But you know, if you want to track your net carbs, and the thing is I think that we're getting into a time when more businesses and people are labeling things as like net carbs. I mean, we have some things here that are like that list things as net carbs. That is a little bit sticky because you know, if you have a food and it lists net carbs, like you're still taking in all the carbs. You don't know exactly how much of those carbs your body is using as fiber and different things like that. So at least for us,
I stay away from the net carb component. I mean, this is a perfect example, like Magic Spoon cereal. Like if you love cereal and you want to, like, we treat this more as a treat, but mostly because it's really expensive.
But it's got a lot of
delicious.
protein
But
in
it has
it.
protein in it.
Yeah.
But it touts itself to only have 4 grams net carbs per serving, but it actually has 15 total grams per serving. And so we would have you track the 15 because we're wanting to look at the overall picture and how those are working in relation to each other for total calories. So, but I do think that, I mean, there's obviously merit and research behind why people look at net carbs, but it's not apples for apples comparison in my opinion.
Yeah, same.
So I hope that helps. I've been tracking how you guys want. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Good job. Okay, and then I just want to talk about this because I think that we can't hit home the importance of high fiber carbohydrates enough. And that is, just listen to this list. Like, who wouldn't want this? These are some of the things that fiber can do for you. They can lower your bad cholesterol, which that's a whole nother discussion.
In fact, sorry, never.
That's a rabbit hole.
Let's not go there right now. Let's do a whole live on cholesterol.
Yeah, let's do it. You guys want us to do that? Anybody interested in cholesterol? All things
The
cholesterol,
good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the needed, the essential.
Okay, they can lower bad cholesterol. They can improve sustained energy.
Improve sustained energy. Got
What
it.
did you think I was going to say?
Improved. I didn't know what that meant.
Improve sustained energy.
Yes.
They can help with sleep. I cannot talk today. Sleep quality and quantity. They can help with healthy skin. They can help.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Bloat. No.
Why are
they
you
can help?
Wait, it's bothering me.
What?
Why are you saying they?
Fiber, are they? Fiber can do this.
Semantics. This is just a little grammar check.
Fiber can do this for you.
Okay.
Fiber can lower your cholesterol, your bad cholesterol.
Thank you.
Fiber can heighten your sustained energy. Fiber can improve your sleep. Fiber can improve your skin. Fiber can decrease bloat. Fiber can increase longevity. Fiber can improve gut health. Fiber can help stabilize blood sugar. And fiber can help with bowel regularity. We have a whole video on poop. You should watch it.
It's important. Everybody does it.
Everybody does it.
And if you're not doing it every day, then you need more fiber.
Yep. Sure do.
Let's just be real. You should be pooping every day. And if you don't, it's probably because you're not getting enough fiber.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You
Or
gotta
water.
get on
Fiber
that.
and or water.
And we even talk about, I think, maybe not on that video, but we do talk about like the consistency of your poop too.
Oh,
we're
good.
still
You're
there.
Sorry.
Okay,
Scary.
so now let's actually jump in. And feel free, you guys, if you guys have had questions, we've been throwing a lot your way. So keep your questions coming if you have them. But we're going to jump into carbohydrates. So...
Because we haven't been talking about it.
We're going to jump into actual examples.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we're going to kind of break this down. And once again, like, let us know if you have questions on these items. Obviously, we could have brought even a bigger plethora of items out here, but we just wanted to give you guys some examples. And so I really like to incorporate carbohydrates into all of my meals. And it looks a little bit different. Now, in a perfect world, if I was really looking at ideals, I would be consuming all complex carbohydrates that are all whole food based and that are non-inflammatory. So I'm really going to be looking at like whole foods that are going to be primarily like vegetables and seasonal fruits. Now, I do have other things in there too that I work in because I enjoy them, and as long as it's not like an everyday staple, like it works for me. And so we have a lot of clients that, you know, have a fair amount of grain products, rices, legumes, like a number of things, and that works really well for them. So some of it is going to have to be based off of your own gut tolerance. So we just thought we'd give you some examples of foods we eat that we enjoy that come with a fairly moderate or significant amount of carbs.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in.
Okay, great.
So
Go. No.
Okay, so
she'll just keep talking the whole time. You guys should have seen how long she wrote. We have this. Sorry, I'm off. She just wrote a book to our clients the other day.
Sorry.
I hopped on and apologized.
Did you? You apologized for me?
Yeah. I said I will
haven't
not
seen that.
ever do that to you. That's what I said. So anyway, she will keep going. Go.
I haven't seen that. It's hilarious. Okay, I'm not gonna talk now.
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Let's just start with these because we do talk to our clients a lot about electrolytes because electrolytes are super important. They are the micronutrients that everybody needs, like vitamins and minerals that we get within our food, we get from our foods, but sometimes we need to supplement with them, such as an electrolyte.
So smart. Such as an electrolyte.
Such as an electrolyte.
And not all electrolytes are created equal either, in our opinion. Now, there are some really good ones on the market now. I particularly really want my electrolyte to have both sodium and potassium. And yes, it is likely going to have a moderate amount of carbohydrates, but you want to be careful to stay away from electrolyte that is just like all sugar.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to talk about like my two favorites, and then also one that's not my favorite that is really popular right now.
Okay, yeah.
What do you want to talk
That's great.
about?
I was just going to talk about, I don't know.
Talk about this one.
This one's my favorite. Now, just so you all know, we are not sponsored by anybody. No. We are not pushing products. If you like it, great. If you dislike it, it does not offend us or bother us. Element electrolytes are my favorite. Mm-hmm. Now, you have to like a little bit of salt.
They're pretty salty.
These are salty. And the reason they're salty is because they're good. And if you are drinking an electrolyte that is more sweet than it is salty, you are getting more sugar and more carbohydrates than you would be otherwise. So just for comparison's sake, you get one packet. I'll show you.
And this is my favorite flavor. Now, I will say these are pretty expensive. Like, they're not cheap. But they really make a difference, especially when you're like really pushing yourself physically.
Yeah. So she likes the orange flavor. I actually like the raspberry. She does not like the raspberry. It's like a perfect marriage.
It is.
It is, yeah. Because when we buy a joint box, we just share. Okay, so the packets are about this size, and I put them in about a half a gallon of water. I
put one per this.
Yeah. And that's plenty for me. And let me tell you what the macros on this are actually just it's 10 calories, 2 carbohydrates in one of these. So if our clients are using this, we would ask them to track it. It's got a barcode on the bottom. You scan it with MyFitnessPal, it pops in there automatically. I have one of these every day, regardless of where I am on my macro plan, whether I'm at the top of a reverse, bottom of a cut. I have one of these every day because I most likely am not getting enough sodium from the foods that I'm eating because most of my diet comes from whole food sources. So
yeah, and there's a lot of research out there. We won't get into all of it, but because we have so many clients using electrolytes, we wanted to touch on the individual ones that we really like.
Yeah. If you eat a more processed diet, your requirement for sodium will be less than if you eat a whole foods diet typically, because processed foods typically have more sodium, actually a lot more sodium in them.
We often will take our clients through a temporary cut. We don't want them in a deficit for too long, but when they're there, we also really encourage them to utilize an electrolyte because their sodium intake will be even lower. And there are a lot of symptoms that are accompanied by too low of sodium. Now, the combination of sodium and potassium, I think, is fantastic. You're also getting some magnesium, not enough for your daily dose, in my opinion, but it's a really, really wonderful combination.
Yeah, 1,000 milligrams of sodium and 200 milligrams of potassium. That's good.
That is good. My other favorite is this Gnarly Nutrition Hydrate. I really like the orange pineapple one. It's fairly similar, but you're gonna get more carbohydrates in this one for a whole scoop, and that's why one of the reasons why I prefer this. And then we see a lot of people are using liquid IV right now. I still think like there's definitely some benefit to it, but in my opinion, like the ingredients, like the first ingredient is pure cane sugar. It does have some vitamins in it. It is 11 carbohydrates per one stick. And I was just trying to see, it has 370 milligrams of potassium, and
it doesn't have any sodium.
Yeah. And
so if you're looking to like replenish your sodium, like if you sauna daily, if you get hot and sweaty daily, if you're exercising a lot and you want to restore your sodium in your body, this is a better choice.
Yep.
In my opinion.
In our opinion. And we don't always agree, but no, I think we do on all the big things.
I think the things that really matter. Yeah. Like, I like raspberry and she likes orange, and that's okay.
That's okay.
She calls fiber they, and I call it it. Whatever.
They're multiple grams of fiber, are they?
Anyways, moving right along.
Okay, so let's just talk about veggies for a minute. Obviously, like, you're gonna have some vegetables that are gonna be higher in fiber higher in carbohydrates, and those are gonna be typically your sweeter vegetables.
This doesn't look like what it is.
What do you guys think this is?
What do you think this is? If you purchase these, you know what it is. These are pre-cooked beets. I get them at Costco. Oh my gosh, I love beets.
They're so good for you, but I don't like them.
They are really good for you. Now, if you like beet juice and you're juicing beets and drinking the juice raw, just do some research, because beets can be really toxic in their raw state. So just beware. Anyway, if it is a sweet tasting vegetable like beets, like carrots, these are going to be higher in carbohydrates than something less sweet like celery.
Yeah,
which
or
is like eating
zucchinis or cucumbers or anything like that.
Yep.
Oh,
I have a sweet potato in my hand too. People confuse sweet potatoes and yams. This is a sweet potato. It's orange. People typically call them yams, and they're wrong. Sweet potatoes are orange.
Because Haley is always right.
Not always, but on certain things. Certain things I am.
And we do, like, we would suggest, you know, I think it really depends. In my opinion, as far as potatoes go, sweet potatoes are one of the better ones. We also do some red potatoes, or some mini yellows at times. Mm-hmm. It really depends on, like, where your carb value is at, and oftentimes the amount of carbohydrates that our clients are eating is dictated off of the demands that they're putting on their body. So if we have a really active person, and let's say one of their goals is performance, they're likely going to have a higher gram count of carbohydrates, regardless of where they're at, than maybe somebody that is really just looking at fat loss and they're not active. And so it really is going to depend on what the person needs. And so those with a higher carbohydrate intake are going to need to get creative, because it can be difficult by vegetables alone sometimes to hit your carbs. Now, fruit's going to knock them out real fast. And if you're eating fruit, once again, ideally, you don't have to do this, but ideally it's going to be seasonal fruit, preferably berries.
Yeah. I had a thought when you were saying that. It was, a little story time. We have a client, and she's a dear friend of ours, and she came to us having been a keto person for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. And we her coach, slowly worked her out of keto, and she incorporated more carbohydrates, and we work out with her in the mornings, and she is so fit, and her energy in the gym is through the roof. Her performance, awesome. And she feels great. And she was really, really nervous to increase her carbs. And anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys that, like, if you are somebody who's been on a keto plan for a long time and you've been thinking about, you know, maybe trying macros, and you're really scared of increasing carbohydrates for whatever reason, you're scared to do that, just know that there is a system to increasing your carbohydrates that'll make it easier for you.
Responsibly and strategically
increasing your carbohydrates, especially if performance is something that you are looking to improve. And this girl has just seen huge gains in the gym. And, like, I feel like one of the things that she said is, like, her explosiveness, like her explosive power in the gym has gone through the roof. And girlfriend can do some pull-ups. And then what's amazing is that she has increased her carbohydrates while decreasing her body fat and increasing her strength. Yeah. And so I just think it's such a testament to when you're fueling your body appropriately. And she was already really educated on inflammatory versus non-inflammatory foods and all the things. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, just a little story.
We probably don't need to show you guys all the things, but when you're looking at fruits, particularly like berries, having them on hand, you just want to, you know, weigh them by gram, track them, and it's such a great way to, if you have a higher volume of carbohydrates, to really enjoy some. Now, you're not going to want to just eat fruit independent. Once again, you're going to want to couple it with something. And so there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Sometimes a higher protein yogurt is a good way to do that.
Or like an apple and almond butter. Peanuts tend to be a little bit inflammatory. They're a legume, not a nut. So if you can do like an almond butter or a walnut butter, if you have room for those kinds of fats in your plan, then do that, because I feel like that is like a perfect match.
Oh, it's just delicious.
So good.
Okay, and then one thing I just wanted to share with grapes is grapes are like little sugar balls. That's why they're so delicious. And so they're really high in carbohydrates. But one really fun dessert, and this can be really fun for kids too, is to freeze grapes. Frozen grapes are like such a treat, especially in warmer months. So just a little like side hack, but just make sure you track them because they really do add up fairly quickly.
They do. Now I want to talk. Oh, go ahead.
No,
you can talk about more fruit.
Nope, go for it.
Okay. So one thing too, and I think that this is true across the board, is people are super into protein bars, and there are about 1 million protein bars on the market. And if you look and you read the ingredients on protein bars, you will learn that they're typically not protein bars; they're carb bars. So, and I'm not shaming any company. I'm not shaming you for buying these. Like. Just hear me out, okay? Never any shame. No. So like a Z bar, these are like really popular with kids. I remember really liking these because they basically taste like a candy bar. And it actually doesn't say on here protein bar. It does say 12 grams of whole grains, good source of fiber. But when we break it down, there are 2 grams of fiber. Only 2. 2 grams, yeah, 2 grams. Wow. And 24 grams of carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates are coming from sugar.
And is there any protein in that?
There's 5 grams of fat and 2 grams of protein. This is not a protein bar. This is a carbohydrate bar. Just so you know. These are my kids' favorite. They actually like the peppermint ones. A Luna bar, 200 calories, 7 grams of fat, 26 grams of total carbs, 3 grams of fiber, only 3. And 8 grams protein. Not a protein bar. This is a carbohydrate bar.
There's more than 3 times the amount of carbs than protein in this. Not, once again, that carbs are bad. It depends on what they're going to utilize this for. But just, a lot of people think that they're eating something healthy when they're eating a bar, and oftentimes it's no different than a candy bar.
Just read the ingredients. Or you can just read the nutrition facts. This is a Built bar. We always talk about Built bars. We love Built bars. Not all Built bars are created equal. Yeah. Make sure that you read on the back. This one is actually a little bit higher in carbs. 160 calories, 6 grams of fat, 20 carbohydrates, and there
17 protein.
And there are 17 grams of protein. This is a little bit better for you than the other ones, but this is still, I mean, it's still
That's more of like a candy bar, Built bar.
Yeah, it's still a carb bar. So, you can get them to where like there's only 8 grams of carbohydrates. There are tons of really good protein bars. We do push the Built bars. If you're going to have a bar, just make sure that you get one that that fits your daily lifestyle and your carbohydrate needs personally.
And then I wanted to talk about a few things that I often fit into my day that naturally have carbs in them. So you don't have to eat jerky to meet macros. I just really like jerky, and it's a great filler for me, especially when I'm higher and I'm wanting to meet my protein goals. So this is one of my favorites right now just because it's easy to grab. It's just the Trader Joe's organic original, and some jerkies are going to come more coupled with fat, some are going to come more coupled with carbs, and some you can get just mostly protein. This one in particular, it's going to give me 11 grams of protein to 5 grams of carbs. And so I often eat all 3 ounces, which is 33 grams of protein, and that'll give me 15 grams of carbs. So just throughout the day with other things you're eating, they're naturally going to have carbohydrates in them. Another thing that I eat a lot of is soup, and the soups that I eat often have a fair amount of carbs because they're veggie heavy. So like, for instance, I just wanted to give you guys this example. This is the Lily Eats and Tells white chicken chili. We
had it for lunch today.
We did, and it's so easy. You portion it out, and then you freeze them, and you're going to just pull them out and stick it in a pot frozen. Like, obviously take the plastic off, and then you just heat it up. And so like this is 1 serving. It's quite a bit. It's like 456 grams, I think, and it gives you 39 grams of protein and 31 grams of carbs. So here's my 31 grams of carbs that's accompanying it, and those just add up throughout the day, and then you don't have as many gaps that you need to fill. That's because this has a lot of veggies. It does have corn in it. Corn is going to be a higher carbohydrate because it's sweet, and I try not to do a ton of corn, but it's delicious.
It is.
It's what they use to fatten up cows, so.
Plus grains. They don't just use corn.
Yeah, I know. I also wanted to give an example because my family loves chips. Like, Who
doesn't love chips?
And my son loves chips and salsa. And once again, like, corn is like, well, we could get into a whole discussion on corn.
Corn is a grain.
It's a grain, and it is by nature, it's inflammatory. But more than the corn and the corn chips that he eats, that I'm concerned about is the seed oils. And so that's why you just want to be really careful when you're looking at consumption of things that are processed that have seed oils in them, because those seed oils are so inflammatory. There are a lot of alternative chips out there. You know, you got to find one that you like, because otherwise what's the point?
Because not all chips are created equal.
They're definitely not. And oftentimes a lot of chips are going to have almost as much fat as they do carbs. This one is like an alternative, less inflammatory option for chips. If it's your jam, it might not be. And so 1 ounce would be
what are they?
6 of this.
Cassava and coconut.
And it would be 19 grams of carbohydrates, 7 grams of fat. So, you know, like you fit them in. And then if you couple that with some delicious pico de gallo, you can have a ton with very little impact to your macros. So, like for instance, this is only 2 grams of carbohydrates for 2 tablespoons. I mean, I'd have a whole lot more than 2 tablespoons, but
yeah,
anything like that. Like you can, there's so many veggies out there that come just like pre-chopped and ready to throw in. And honestly, when we're talking to people about like maybe when they're in their cut or they're in a deficit, like higher volume, lower calorie foods, you could eat all the pickles in the world, and like they really amount to like nothing.
I do not track pickles. I eat pickles on a daily basis. I love a good dill pickle, and I never even track it. It's not even worth it. It's like, why track something that has very little caloric value, if any at all? Same with cucumbers. Like, unless I'm eating a boatload of cucumbers, I'm not going to track them, just because you can eat them all day long and they're not going to make an impact because there's hardly anything to them. Same with celery. And I don't eat celery. It's like chewing on hair.
I was going to show you guys too, when I was showing you the white chicken chili soup, if you don't have the time to make your soups, and we have these on hand oftentimes because they're just a really quick heat, these are actually pretty good. It's the kettle cooked. You don't like them, huh?
I don't, no.
Oh, I love
My family doesn't like them either.
Interesting.
I know.
Have you ever had it when we spruce it up? What we do is we add a little bit of white wine. You have to account for that. And then we add a bunch of dill and a bunch of garlic. And it's really good. Anyways, that's what we do. I like them. My husband likes them too. And the macros are pretty good. So this would be 3 servings, 280 calories, 37 grams of protein, and only 16 grams of carbs. So it's your carbs, but you're getting a good amount of protein. And I don't know. I mean, she doesn't like them. I like them. Everybody's taste buds are a little different.
To each their own.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Other things that we were going to chat on. Oh, yeah.
Now, I do track these.
Whose are whose?
I don't know.
Oh, this one's
anyway.
for...
You can have that one again.
It's okay, buddy.
Anyway, I do track these. I eat bell peppers like they are going out of style year round. I get them at Trader Joe's. I prefer the big red bell peppers more than these, but these are delicious. Do track them, bell peppers and onions also. Yeah. Actually, onions are a little bit higher in carbs than other things. So make sure that if you are eating onions, I eat a lot of onions, that you track them.
And one thing that I'll just throw out there that I've really been loving these with is the cauliflower jalapeno dip from Trader Joe's.
Yeah, it's good.
I just dip these in there and eat them, and it's like it's like delicious.
It is good,
and it gives you a little bit of fat and protein with it too.
Yeah.
So. All right, guys, we've thrown a ton your way today.
We didn't bring bread out or anything. Emmy didn't even talk about the gross granola that she likes.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, I brought this out because it is higher in fat, but what I really like, this has carbs in it too. And there are some, like not all granolas are created equal either. This is a grain-free granola I happen to love. She doesn't like it because she doesn't think it's crunchy enough.
Yeah, it's true.
But she could put it on a sheet pan and bake it and make it
crunchier.
I could, but
or
that's a lot of work.
I could buy the Bare Naked Energy one. And I do like that one. Or Bare Naked Fit, it's called. It is higher in fat and carbohydrates than this one, I think.
It's not grain-free, though.
It is not grain-free. Nope. And that is why it's crunchy.
To each their own. Okay, guys, so we're going to just kind of summarize here. So.
Oh, I love this part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she writes stuff down, and so she can go back and be like, so far we have talked about when to eat carbohydrates.
I don't know, you guys, it might be overkill, and I apologize if it is. I just really like to have things wrapped up, put in a nice little box with a pretty bow, and then I can go on my merry way. That's what I like.
Otherwise, she stays up all night wishing she would have said, to wrap it up, you guys.
Okay, so this is why we need carbohydrates in our life. Carbs are not the enemy. But there is a way to
eat them responsibly and strategically.
Yeah, responsibly and strategically, because carbs are the energy for our muscles.
Yes.
They fuel our nervous system.
Yes.
They enable fat metabolism.
Yes.
They can prevent protein from being broken down as energy so that that protein can protect our muscle. The best time to eat carbohydrates is right after fats and or protein so that you don't have the spike in blood sugar. Can you wait till after the wrap up?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it fits in perfectly
Okay, go,
right
go, go,
now.
go.
Okay, so let's say that you are going to take your kids out for an after-school treat and you take them to get frozen yogurt or ice cream. And you know that you're not going to be able to couple that with protein and or fat. Actually, if it's yogurt or ice cream, it has some protein and fat in it, so you're probably okay. However, there's probably more sugar than anything else, so it is more of a carbohydrate. Just go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just eat your ice cream and go for a walk. If you get movement in after you eat a carb-heavy meal, it really helps to digest those carbohydrates, get them moving through your body so that they don't sit in your gut and make your blood glucose levels go up. Keeps things more steady. That's all.
I love it.
Thanks. It's just a little tip.
A little tip. Snack. Okay, so we talked about the why, and then the how is just make sure you're coupling it with fat and protein so you don't get those blood sugar spikes, which then goes to a blood sugar dip, and then it also has the cascade of fat storage and all the nasty stuff.
Nasty, horrible hurricane stuff.
Yeah. Hurricane. You had something good
Hurricane
earlier on
of
that.
horribleness. Okay,
we talked about the importance of fiber. Fiber is so important. On average, roughly 25 grams a day. You know, that's not true for everybody. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but if we're just throwing an average out there. We talked about how studies are showing just taking an average of fiber from 12 grams to 24 grams in a day can burn roughly 90 calories more in that day, which is incredible. I'm so excited to keep reading the science on that. We talked about how fiber can really help with lowering your bad cholesterol, increasing your energy, helping with sleep, helping with skin, decreasing bloat, increasing longevity, balancing gut health, balancing blood sugars, improving bowel regularity. And then we talked about how not all carbohydrates are created equal. We really want to try to focus on complex carbohydrates, not simple carbohydrates. To break it down even simpler, we want food from the ground, food that walks around, food from the sea, food from the air. Basically, whole foods whenever you can. The less processed, the better, because then it's going to keep inflammation levels down and help adequately fuel your body. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's finding carbs that will fuel you. It's incorporating them into your meals in a responsible, strategic way, and it's having you feel your best. So, what brand fiber do you like? I bought it once, but now forget the brand. Okay, so we probably need to take the one that's on our website off. It's the Vital Nutrients
one. We can leave it. We can just add to it.
Yeah, because I think it's a really great form of fiber. It's on the toolbox of our website. There's a link to it. However, most people don't like the taste. It can be chalky.
It's textural.
It's a textural thing. That's the one I used to use, and I would track it, but I would just add a little bit of this to it, and then I didn't mind it at all because what you're getting fiber without sugar, and I really like that. Haley actually turned me on to taking psyllium husk capsules instead. You're not actually getting quite as much fiber. However, the way that your body's utilizing the psyllium husk is still accomplishing the same goal.
Yeah, and you can buy the psyllium husk just like in a powder form and add that to whatever. I mean, you can add it to water and drink it if you want. I just kind of have a hard time just dumping fiber into water, drinking it.
And it doesn't bother me, but the capsules just make it easier.
Yeah, capsules make it easy. If you need to get 20 grams of fiber from a capsule, that's a lot of capsules of psyllium husk. And so you might have a better time of going a different route. You can also get it from, there's so many different kinds of fiber. I also really like acacia fiber. That's a good one if you want to add that to I'm going to say the word smoothie. If you have a smoothie that is also...
be really careful with what you put in your smoothies.
Yeah, but you can have a smoothie that does not jack up your blood sugar as long as you add protein and fiber and fat to it as well. And if you want...
You can.
Oh, no.
Just might be a lot of calories, but you can.
You can, and I've got a recipe for one if you want it.
Oh, you should do it. You should share it.
I will. maybe not on here. If you are interested, you can reach out and I'll give it to you. I'm not going to tell you whether it tastes great or tastes bad. It does. I like it. I like the taste. And I used to drink one.
She's never made me one of these.
No, I haven't. And I used to drink one every single day.
No, I haven't.
But it was a meal. Like, it was my morning meal.
Yeah.
And I prefer to eat my calories than drink them anymore.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And, you know, if you have a significant calorie volume that you're meeting and you enjoy it, great. It's just typically whole foods are going to be the better way to go. But, yeah, you can have your smoothie and drink it, too. Just like you can have your cake and eat it, too.
That too.
All right, guys, we are going to sign off. If you guys have questions, you can reach out anytime. You can go to our website, macromavens.life. You can reach out to us there. You can reach out to us on any of our social platforms.
Ooh.
If you're interested in learning more about our services, you can go to our website, macromavens.life, click on the Hop on Board button. And by doing that, it does not commit you to anything. It just allows one of our coaches to reach out to you, answer any questions, see if we're a good fit for you. And if for any reason we're not, then we will absolutely give you some suggestions.
Yep.
Please.
We currently, if you do not know, we are, it's our birthday. It's our 1-year birthday. So we are celebrating. We're actually letting you guys hop in on the celebration. If you sign up for a 6-month plan, you get your first month half off. That is a big savings. So if you have been thinking about joining, getting a macro coach, now's the time. If you want to hop on with Macro Mavens, we would love to have you as a client. And you get a little bit of a discount for your first month if you sign up for 6.
And the cool thing is even though there's so much more than just the aesthetics component, I mean, think about like where you could be in 3 months from now.
Oh man, summer's coming.
Summer's coming.
It is
Swimsuit
time to
season's
go
coming.
shopping for swimsuits. And nobody really likes to do that, but we want to make it more fun.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And so we hope you guys have gotten some useful information here. We hope that you eat your carbs responsibly and strategically and help them fuel your body and your brain and all the things.
Yeah.
That's
Have a
what
great
we
week, you
want.
guys.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.